Hello, Miami. This is 305 Sports Now, your home podcast for all things Miami sports related. I am Will, and joining me today is a very familiar face as he used to attend the school in which I used to give a lot of social studies lessons to, Southwest Senior High School, and he is formerly a professional basketball player in Latin America, in Colombia, in a small little town called Cucuta, playing for the Motilones del Norte. I hope I said that with flow. All right, Mr. Gyvanni
You hit it on
Gonzalez.
the
How you
head.
doing, sir?
I'm doing amazing, my brother. It's good to be here, man. It really
Thank you,
is.
man.
Southwest, Purple Hearts. We gotta stick together. We gotta show love.
Yeah, definitely. I used to get a lot. I used to get a lot of flack because I actually graduated from Coral Park. I'm from '99.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm from class of '99, and they used to bug me because they're like, "Oh, you're a Ram." And listen, I worked at Southwest for
Uh-huh.
12 years. I think I've earned my Eagle stripes.
Yeah, and
In
Coral Park
general.
was it was a century ago, so we don't even count.
Yeah, it does actually. It actually was a century ago. If you want to get technical, tell you it was a century ago. All right, so we're talking a little bit before the show, and you had an interesting background. You had originally you actually picked up. I've seen your highlight tapes. You actually you have some game, right? You have a good handle of basketball. You have a good shot. You have a good paint game and so on with your dunks and so on. But you almost actually went to college. You had a full scholarship, but it didn't work out for you. What exactly happened?
So when I graduated from Southwest, I didn't have any offers from high school, but Coach Moore, legend,
Mhm.
he took me to some camp maybe a couple months or weeks after our senior season, and I had one of my best performances ever. Like this is a camp with dozens or hundreds of kids all trying to get scholarships, probably 100 coaches in attendance, and nothing major that you're gonna see on TV, but JUCOs and D2 and D3. And from that camp, I ended up getting about 15 to 20 offers. Coach Moore told me, and he's not someone that really talks up too much smoke, but he told me I played either I was the best player or one of the best players there. And that was just me playing with confianza and not trying to, steal the show. People in camps, they try to score and do too much. Me, I was just, playing basketball, playing defense, talking, communicating. So through that, I was able to get a lot of offers. But I had me a little stint after my senior year that I just wasn't really into the whole basketball thing. So I
Okay.
put it to bed for 2 years. And then I reached out to Coach Schaffner at Weber because he's known me since I was in ninth grade. He actually went to Southwest.
Okay.
The coach that was there previously, he's not there anymore. So he always kind of looked out for Southwest guys and he's seen my growth. So I knew if I called him 2, 3 years later, he would have some type of opportunity for me. And as soon as I called him, he was, he didn't even need to see me play. He said, okay, we will take you. So he came over. We did the whole shabazz with the signing day and all the pictures and whatnot. And then this is where it gets a little interesting. My mom always tells me everything you do in life, you pay for, or everything that you don't do, you pay for. So between my senior season and 2, 3 years after, I was just, for lack of better terms, just bullshitting at Miami-Dade College, paying classes out of pocket, not showing up, not dropping them, being irresponsible. And then when I signed my scholarship and I'm doing my admissions, it turns out I got denied and I wasn't accepted into Weber by a minuscule. I had like a 1.9 GPA and it was like a 2.0. So that was unexpected to say the least. But I still, I did some training camp with them. We played some summer leagues. It was amazing. It was a good experience in that case. And that was that with Weber International and with my college experience.
I'm glad you brought that up because I want to follow up on that. Since you just, you admitted that you didn't take school seriously, you're focused more on at least at this point, you were focused more on the sport. What would you tell young people that are phenomenal athletes, but they yet don't have grades?
Ooh, I'm gonna just tell them what my mom says. That thing echoes in my head till this day. Everything you do in life, you pay for. And I added the part of everything that you don't do as well, because sometimes it's more dangerous to not act on something. So I would just keep that in mind. You're continuously building interest with whatever you do and don't do. So just continue to put good credit, good karma, positivity out there, hard work, intentionality, keep learning and be responsible because those are things that I weren't 10 years ago.
Now, Coach Moore had a bit of a hand, in your life. Coach, when you call him a legend, he is a legend. Especially at Southwest, they named the basketball court after him and everything. I believe he was coaching for 30 years at that school. So what would you say, as far as the importance of having a coach like that not just serves as a basketball coach teaching you X's and O's of a game, but also may serve as a mentor, father figure? Like, what would you say to having something like that in your life?
Man, first of all, I don't know if you can see this, but I got goosebumps right now just because Coach Moore, if you look at his record, wins and losses, it's not impressive. He's Southwest. He doesn't recruit like other coaches would do. He works with what he has, and his biggest thing was to mold young men. And honestly, in this world and where I come from, he was the first person I ever met that was truly a man of his word to a T. And I respected that so much. If he says something's gonna be done, October 20th on a Tuesday at 9:30 p.m., like he will be there. You don't even have to follow up or remind him. He just is an all around man, someone that I look up to. And he's someone that sacrificed it all. He never made his own family with a wife and kids because he was so dedicated to the sport and to his family at Southwest that I think that's where all of his heart was. So I look up to him for so many reasons: his basketball savvy, his sense of humor, his wittiness, and just the fact that he's a true man of his word. That's what makes him a legend.
Nice touch. You still keep in contact with him?
Yeah, him and I, we talk, through Facebook. Luckily, he has social media now, so
Yeah.
I can see him as he travels the country again, again, again. We had a lunch together a couple months ago, a steak dinner out back, and he told me something very interesting. He told me two things that were interesting. He told me something about me, something about himself. You want to
Okay.
hear his, or you want to hear mine first?
I like to hear both. All right. Like I said, I like to like I told Solana yesterday. I like to hear. I like my guests to just feel at home. So go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm gonna give you Coach Mo's success. He told me something amazing. He went to Vegas. Maybe I should keep this on the DL. But he went to Vegas and he
No,
hit
no,
the
no, no, no.
lotto.
You opened a can
He
of
hit
worms.
the
You gotta say it.
he hit the jackpot, man. He hit the jackpot on one of the slot machines. He cashed out over $100,000 cash, and he was
What?
just so happy and great. He treated me for lunch. Long story short, and he was just so happy, grateful. Him and I talked a little bit about God and the universe and karma,
Mhm.
and he was so compelled that he felt like all that he's given to his kids and given back in that moment, something gave it back to him.
That's
And then
amazing.
the second, that's amazing, right? That thing left me like till this moment. I feel like if I won the money, that's how I feel knowing he got a little check. And the second thing he told me, which I found very interesting, he said I was the first player and only player he's ever coached that went professional.
Good.
So that made me feel very honored because 30 years and how many kids come in and come out of school and transfer and this and that, and the only one right here. So that made me feel honored, for lack of better terms.
Well, that's amazing, and I'm glad you brought up the whole idea of professional. A lot of individuals that play basketball and maybe don't go the NBA route. They tend to go the route of Europe. Go the route of Europe? You played in Colombia. Like, how did that happen? What was your journey to going into playing in Colombia versus maybe trying your handles in the European game?
So kind of how I mentioned with putting out the good karma and the good energy and all that. Honestly, since a young age, this did not just happen a year or two ago. This is something that since I was young, I was kind of building up. As you look back on life, you're able to see things differently. And I've always been obsessed with sports. I was never a kid that was big on video games. I like being outside, climbing trees, playing tackle football. I have an older brother who's 3 years older than me. So I was used to getting my ass kicked by him and his friends. I was always the younger, skinny little guy, but I just had this tenaciousness, this tenacity. I just wanted to get hit and be physical. So I played soccer growing up. I'm Colombian, I
Mhm.
played football, and I would always like kind of play basketball here and there. And then when we got to high school, I told myself I had a business decision as a 14-year-old. I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, yo, so you want to be like good at soccer, football, basketball, good at everything, or you want to be great at one thing? So I decided, soccer, that was my best sport growing up. But soccer, they don't care about in the US. Football, people get hurt every play, and I'm
Mhm.
very skinny naturally. I've gained weight, 15 years later, but I was 120 pounds, 5'6" as a ninth grader. Nothing that would make you look twice. And then basketball, I'm like, all right, basketball's cool. It's only 5 players. You go to the park. So I decided to play and take it serious. My ninth grade year, I was on a Tam Miami team, and we were tough. We were good. These Tam Miami teams, We had a team that had 11 players on our roster and 11 players played for their high school. And that says
Okay.
a lot when you play in a rec league. So we went undefeated. We won the championship. And I was the worst player on my team in ninth grade. I was the worst player on my team. I was that guy that would start the games, because everyone has to play a quarter if you pay. I would start and never get on the court again, even if we're up 30. So that to me was devastating. I had so much kind of like internal tug of wars and a lot of pains and aches that actually came from that time Miami team. So we had one game. I used to miss layups. It's one thing to play at the park with your friends, but another thing to be organized with the crowd, with the
Hmm.
referees, with people screaming. So I couldn't handle that at the time. And I just had this one game. I finally played well. I had about 8 or 9 points in the first quarter. And, coach takes me out the second quarter. Of course, it's the rotation. I get it. Second quarter, nothing. Third quarter, nothing. Fourth quarter, we're up 15, 20 points, nothing. And then the star of the team fouls out, Freddie Latour from Belen. No
Okay.
hard feelings. I love Freddie. This is just the whole situation. And there's like 15 seconds left, and coach looks at me and he's like, Gyvanni, get in. I look at him like, get in. There's 15 seconds left, and it's not a close game. It's not like, oh, shoot the game-winning shot. We are up 20 plus. Like, game's over. You just need someone. And I look at him and I go, no. And I just put my head down. And I was just, because I finally had success. I had a good first quarter, 8 or 9 points. I was like, I'll be back. I'm gonna play good. My confidence, nothing. So he did that. I put my head down. Game's over. My mom picks me up from the game, and I can't even talk. And then we're, 5 minutes driving, and she looks at me and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I just broke down in tears, like hysterical crying. Couldn't even speak. Couldn't get sentences across or words. It was, hyperventilating. And she was a little sympathetic, and she just kind of looked at me and says, "What you gonna do about it?" So I'm like, "Damn." At that point, I'm like, I wanted my mom to hug me or something, but she just looks at me. My mom is super tough, by the way, one of my
Mhm.
biggest role models. But she just looks at me and says, "What you gonna do about it?" So I'm like, "Okay, okay, mom, fine." So I held on to that until this moment. I still wear this. I still kind of internalize that moment because that was at the end of the season. We ended up winning the championship. Like I said, everybody played at their high school. And in Miami-Dade, at the Miami Herald, at every high school, they'll show, if you look at the scores for high school basketball, they'll show Belen, Southwest, Coral Park, the last name, and however many points they got. So, believe me, every single person on that team, I was always checking the newspaper before we had the internet like it is today to see how many points they scored. And I was just ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, always checking on them. And I'm like, look, these kids might be better than me. They might be more experienced, but they're not going to outwork me. I'm just going to put my head down and go all into this basketball stuff. And that's what I did. Ninth grade, I was actually one of the last players picked on the JV team. I didn't start. I was probably one of the, I'm sure the coaches liked me because they sensed a little bit of toughness and tenacity, but I was really nothing special. Didn't have a left hand. I was short. I was skinny. I couldn't touch backboard. I was inexperienced, but I had that dog in me. So ninth grade was not a successful JV season by any means. And I realized at the end of the season, I'm like, dude, I went this whole season, I didn't make one left-handed layup. And this was a game changer for me because my whole summer from ninth grade to 10th grade, I just decided to go left every single time at the park, playing with my little brother, playing by myself at the gym, whatever, just to like develop that left hand. And this changed my game because I went from being a right-handed player to, yes, I'm right-handed, but I go to my left. So people couldn't really cover me because I was always going to my left and finishing with my left. Sophomore year, I make it to varsity. My first game ever on varsity, 22 points against Barbara Goldman, a school from Hialeah. I'm sure you're
Hmm.
familiar with them.
Yes, they're actually a
And that
rival.
was, yeah,
Yeah, they're a
Westlawn.
rival.
And so that was kind of an interesting moment. My sophomore season, my first game ever, from being the one of the worst players on my JV, the first game sophomore year, 22 points.
Good.
And sophomore was a little up and down. I have 22, 18, and then I might have 0 points or 4 points. It was really just very inconsistent. But I kept working, I kept working, I kept working. And then actually at the end of sophomore year, I decided to try out for the volleyball team. State champions. Yes.
Yes.
Volleyball is amazing. It's not that I was a star of the team, but I was on the team. So I was honored to be there as well. I also wanted to learn how to jump higher. Of course, everybody wants to. So that was my main thing behind volleyball. But Coach Diaz,
Mm-hmm.
Another legendary coach who
Yeah.
also gets wins at the highest level. He taught me so much. And the culture of the volleyball team, I was desperate to bring that into the basketball team. But the volleyball team was light years ahead than the basketball team. The
Yeah.
volleyball guys, like 3 hour practices every day, even without coach, like they're running it to a T. Basketball guys, we would goof off a little bit. So it is what it is. But I knew I would always go to practice. I would go to the gym in the morning at 5:30 a.m. I would go to the gym at night after practice to play. Like I was just all in. I wasn't the kid that was out there drinking or doing drugs. I didn't really care about partying. I just wanted to be great. And that's what I did. I committed myself honestly every single day, at least once a day, throughout the course of like my last game of JV till my senior season, every single day, no matter what. And I saw pretty tremendous, tremendous growth each season. So
Yeah.
from JV being one of the last guys picked to ninth to my senior year, I actually set a record at Southwest. It stood for about 6 or 7 years and it got broken for 3 pointers made in a game.
Okay.
And then, like we spoke about earlier, we had the second best record in school history. So,
Yeah.
and I was the tallest player. I'm only 6'1", 6'2", if the scouts ask. But that was nice. It was just a testament, to the hard work, and then also too, as a Southwest, like we all played JV together, so we grew together and we had great chemistry. Everyone knew their roles. We played defense. We take charges. We throw elbows. So it was a great run. I'm glad we were able to give that to Coach Moore.
No, I'm glad. I wanted to share something with you since you brought up, how difficult it was for you as a young player. Um, I heard this story years ago, so it's a little foggy. But Kobe Bryant, whom we all know, legendary scorer,
Rest in peace.
his father played in Italy, so Kobe was very fluent in Italian. I think he played in a rec league in Italy, or like a traveling team or something like basically like a team in Italy. And he said he spent an entire summer he could not score a point when he was really young.
Really?
And this is Kobe, all right? Kobe, 87 points in a game, 81 points, 67. There was one game there was one summer where he was a small child where he could not score a
Hmm.
point, and that didn't stop him. That actually motivated him even more. So I'm glad you didn't let your height or your size kind of like deflate you and so on, or even playing in Miami deflate you, that you decided to just find what you could do, what you can handle, and what you need to improve on, and made yourself a better player. So that's a good thing. That's a very good story to tell. So how'd you end up in Colombia? Now that's what everybody wants to know. How did Gyvanni Gonzalez end up in his madre patria de Colombia, playing ball?
Man, it's so it's interesting how our journeys work out. I had no intention of playing basketball. Actually, in 2021, last year, I kind of wrote on my New Year's resolution that I was going to give up basketball and I wanted to learn, a new sport. I wanted to learn a new instrument. I have the piano right here behind the camera. I wanted to learn piano, gymnastics, just something super random. I was desperate to break out of my shell, my bubble. I love basketball. It's not going anywhere, but I just wanted to grow. So actually the opposite happened. Instead of me distancing myself from the game, we were just coming off of the pandemic. So a couple leagues opened up little by little. There was this league called Courtside Basketball. Shout out Courtside, we, Mike, all the guys that run one of the best leagues in Miami. I just kept seeing all these videos on Instagram of guys playing in leagues, and I'm like, you know what? This league is cool, and they take videos for you. Have you seen it before? You're familiar with Courtside Basketball?
No, no, I'm not. And enlighten us, please.
It's right up the way. It's on 87th and 8th Street, more or less. It's at Braid Church. And since
Okay.
it's at a church, they have their own gym. They weren't really constrained by the pandemic rules, so they were
Hmm.
able to start their league on their own terms. And everyone was playing. The league was it still is, it's very competitive, especially when it first came out. Guys were coming from all over Florida to play there. So I was watching the league, watching the league. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna play. And then eventually, I went back with my guys, some of my guys that I've been playing, rec leagues with for the last 5 or 6 years, Devin and Carlos, some of my best friends. And my first game after, I haven't even played basketball in a year or two. I'm playing against an ex-player from the Heat, another trainer who played overseas in Europe and trains NBA players, another overseas player. They were the defending champs, and my first game back, I had 49 points.
Really?
I'm like, whoa, I haven't even touched a basketball, in months. Probably an hour before the game, I went to the park with my friend just to shoot around and get a rhythm. Shout out Ben Vargas, also Southwest guy. He was rebounding for me. And I went from, I get to the park, and if you've taken a while off playing your sport, just layups and dribbling the ball feels weird. But after, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I got my rhythm back and I could feel, my shot was nice. So that game, I probably had 9 or 10 threes and just getting to the basket. And we were playing the defending champs with ex Miami Heat player, all overseas guys in their lineup. We ended up losing by 4, but it was a neck and neck game. And our team wasn't really impressive and stacked with talent like they were, but we were playing hard, and I was being very efficient with my scoring. And
Can you say the name
that
of
to
the
me
Heat
was
player? I'm sorry. Can you say the name?
Robert Height.
Robert what?
Robert Height.
Robert. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
He played for University of Miami actually
Yes.
too.
Yes, I
Went to the
remember.
Heat, played with the Nets, overseas career, lefty, really, really good dude, man. I got a lot of respect for Rob. He's one of the dudes that can get it, and he's, a little mean, not mean on the court to you, but he gets very focused, but he also shows love. Like, I'll go at him and he'll be like, oh, good move, or nice change of direction. Like, why are you telling me? I know, but thanks. So he was cool. Ron Taylor, Taylor Sports Group, big time trainer, trains a lot of NBA All Stars here in Miami. They got another guy, Chris, plays in Nicaragua. They had a very stout lineup. Danny plays in England. It was a good matchup. And even though we lost, it was kind of like a moral victory. I hadn't played in so long, pandemic, I was about to give up on the sport. I'm like, you know what? Let me put a little bit into basketball because in my adulthood, there's rec leagues all over Miami, and I found myself very frustrated because I'm playing against guys that play pro and college, and they play every day, and I play one time a week for 1 hour. So I was never really at my best, even though I can compete and score. I was never at my best. So after that game, Taylor Sports Group, he actually reached out to me. He wrote to me on Instagram, 2 words, kind of changed everything for me. You nice? Question mark. And I go, I just put a 50 on your boys. I mean, you tell me. So he actually invited me to come train with them. So I started training in North Miami with Taylor Sports Group. I was around Jonathan Kaminga, a player from the Warriors, a lot of NBA talent and, college guys and even younger kids, a lot of talent he gets in those workouts doing ball handling and drills and full court one-on-ones and two-on-twos. Like, all right, this is cool. But I was paying out of pocket, which I don't mind. I invest in my stuff, but I'm like, I could do something a little bit better. Let me talk to a couple of coaches that I know and see if we could barter. So I do personal training and physical therapy here in Miami. So I reached out to this coach. He's the coach at LaSalle,
Okay.
Danny Arguello. We call him Slim. Good dude, positive energy, just one of them dudes. And I'm like, yo, you know what? How about we barter? How about we trade services? Like, train me on the court. And then at LaSalle, they have a beautiful facility. I'm not sure if you've ever seen it. Overlooking the gymnasium on the second floor, they have a great weight room. So I'm like, look, we'll train on the court an hour, hour and a half, and then we'll go upstairs and I'll train you. And that's what we did. And we started training for a couple of months. I was also training with a friend of mine, Ryan. I got to mention him too. Shoot for Dreams. I've known Ryan since I was 15, 16 years old. He's in South Miami area. Great trainer. He has the South Miami Rec Center on lock. So Taylor Sports Group, Shoot for Dreams, and Coach Slim, guys that started to train me. And for the first time in my life, I actually had a trainer to work on me. A lot of the talent that I've developed was from VHS tapes, Better Basketball, from and one mixtapes,
Yeah.
like just seeing something and just practicing on my own, making the drills in my head. But this is the first time I just gave someone else the reins. Like, you know what, you train me, you do what you want with me. And this is where I tell you, like, kind of manifestation in the universe and things. Like, I was just around a bunch of guys. We'd be in a group of 5, 6, 10 guys, and then next week, 3 of the guys are gone because they got pulled and they got sent to some type of country to play overseas. Remember, this is kind of post-pandemic,
Yeah.
mid 2021. A lot of overseas leagues, even though the NBA did their bubble and then it came back for a condensed season, South America, Europe, they're a year or two behind from the States. So other leagues were just opening up for their first season. So a bunch of guys around me went overseas and pro, and I'm happy for them. That wasn't really my goal. I just wanted to work on my game, cardio.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of my friends, Julian, he went to Dominican Republic, and his same agent ended up getting in contact through a mutual friend. You know what? I got to give another shout out because I can't do this by myself. I've had so many blessings along my journey of like people that just kind of push me in the right direction or connected me with someone. That's how I try to live my life as well. I always try to, I don't look for anything in return from people. I just like to give love, positivity, whatever I can, give back. And it's amazing when you get that back. So my younger brother calls me one day randomly, and he was with a friend, Christian Love. And Christian Love is like, hey, I know you can play. I've seen one of your games. One of my best friends is an agent for South America. Like, are you interested in playing? And I go, yeah, sure. Just to see what happens. I've had so many people reach out to me about opportunities and jobs, and it goes one year out the other. Maybe they don't follow up. But he was on my ass. He followed up. What's up? You gonna do it? You want to do it? So I said I'm down. And this is where things get a little interesting. So I tell him that I'm down. I hadn't signed any contract, and then I had a game, maybe a day or two later from the phone call. I had another great game, another 50-point game. I don't score 50 points on the regular, by the way. This is
Okay.
just, the two games. But it was a great game. It was 49 to be exact. And we're actually playing that same team again in the playoffs in the first round. So it's our last game of the season at courtside. And then first game of the playoffs, we're playing the same team. And the whole day to me felt a little bit off. You know, I was sluggish. I was like 10 pounds heavier than my usual body weight. It was a Monday. I just felt off. And then that same game, I go and I tear my ACL. I don't think you were expecting this turn of events.
No.
Literally a week after I get this phone call that could potentially change my life about going overseas, the whole nine, I go and tear my ACL, and I go, damn, God, is this what you want from me? Fine, like I guess I feel honored that I even got a call to play pro, but maybe that was it. Maybe this is the bow, the cherry on top for my basketball journey. I couldn't walk for 18 days. I was in a really, really bad place. And I remember one of my best friends, Carlo, he texted me day 18, like, yo, can you walk today? And I wrote to him, no, asshole, I can't. And then I deleted the text and I'm like, hold on, let me try and walk. And I try to walk and I'm like, oh shit, I can walk. And I went outside and it was so sunny, it was a beautiful day. And that moment was kind of like a life changing moment. It took me all the way back to when I was, what, 2 months old, when I'm taking my first steps again,
Mm-hmm.
because I've things that we take for granted sometimes. I've been an athlete my whole life. I've had a car accident, I've had a couple injuries here and there, but nothing that like a ligament in the knee is one of those things as an athlete that's just tough, for lack of better terms. So I'm like, there goes my basketball journey. I didn't really hear from my agent. I began doing physical therapy immediately. The season came, a couple weeks or months after the phone call, the season went. I kept doing my therapy. I didn't think much of it. I was honestly just, I was that with basketball. And I was in Italy. And on a random, like, Saturday night in Italy, my agent reaches out to me and he goes, hey, Gyvanni, what's up? You still want to go to Colombia? I have 3 teams that want you. I'm like, what? Excuse me? Yes. He didn't know about my injury. The team didn't know about my injury. Not even my teammates. No one knew. But I told him I am down. And at the time, I had a girlfriend and we used to talk about it. And of course, I had my doubts. And she gave me some pretty inspiring words. And she's like, "Look what can happen. They send you back home." I'm like, you know what? You're right. Fuck it. Fuck it. I'll go over there. At least I'll take some good pictures in the uniform, say that I went pro, even though they send me home. And the opposite happened. I was doing my therapy. It was just supposed to take a year to a year and a half to recover. From my injury, 6 months later, I'm having my first practice.
Okay.
And I'm going to practice. No one knows. I have 3 knee braces on at the same time. I'm using like creams and painkillers and anti-inflammatories and just compression. I'm practicing in sweatpants because I don't want people to see me as a liability. So I end up in Colombia. Well, before I even got to Colombia, let me rewind a little bit. There was so much unknown. I was living in stress and anxiety and uncertainty for so many months because my knee. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get my paperwork to work in Colombia. And living in Miami is expensive, so I wanted to find someone that would, that I can rent my apartment to. Plus, I don't even know if my knee is gonna be ready. So there's just like so much going on that I'm
Mm-hmm.
like uptight for months. But by the grace of God, we made it over there. I found a tenant. He was amazing. Almost burned my apartment down. True story. I have a huge thing in my kitchen right now, literally. But that's a whole nother story. And I found him. My knee was able to be stable. Paperwork cleared just in time. Everything lined up. I go and I sign my contract in Cucuta, Colombia, and I had never heard of Cucuta until they asked me to go. And I realized it's on the border of Venezuela
Mhm.
and Colombia. Se llaman los motilones. Motilones, it's like a hair cutter. But really, in that region of Colombia, Venezuela, they have a lot of Indian, I don't think Native American is the term, but like Indios type of people. So
Mhm.
motilones means something different to them. So I went over there to Cucuta, not knowing anything about it, leaving everything behind, relationship, apartment, my job too. At the time, my job, I was doing the best I had ever done financially. I was meeting clients at a new price range, but I was willing to leave everything behind because it was my dream. There's no monetary value, there's no material, there's nothing that will make you feel as accomplished as a dream. And to me, I get goosebumps. I get inspired very easily. To me, to say I played basketball professionally, it meant everything to me from, the 4 a.m. workouts before practice and then going to the gym again and going to the park again to coaching my younger brother, 10 years younger than me. I coached him for years and years and years, always involved, refereeing, mentoring kids just at the park or at the gym. Like I've given so much to this game that I was honored when it came back around and, they gave me the opportunity to play professionally. So I went over there and I was all business. Like my knee wasn't healthy and I wasn't trying to go over there and, do professional athlete things, have fun, while out when you don't have games or practice, be with different women, whatever. That was not my focus. I'm like, this is a blessing and I need to protect it entirely. I was in a relationship too. Plus, I still had my business here in Miami. I was keeping in contact with clients. I had them situated with other trainers, or I was, sending them workouts. Like I didn't just leave my people. So I was just locked in. I even had teammates ask me, "What's wrong with you?" Like nothing's wrong with me. I'm 30 years old. I live in Miami. Like all these women that you guys see, I can go to Publix or Walgreens and see all types of women. That's not really what motivates me and drives me at this point in my life. So I tell you this because after being willing to be the 12th man, the towel boy, being willing to be sent back home, I actually ended up starting on my team. I led the league in 3-point shooting. I shot 61% from three
Oh
for a
wow.
whole professional season with a torn ligament. I hadn't played basketball since my injury, and that court is big as hell, and the 3-point is a little deeper. It's the international line is a little shorter than NBA, but it's
Mhm.
it's different than what I was used to playing with. So that to me was just a testament of just being so freaking focused and like like I said, I was willing to give up everything for my dream. So the fact that I was able to start and be number one in the league in 3-point shooting, and now I have a dozen teams in the Colombian League and South America that are interested in my services, that made me feel damn good. So I came back to Miami, and my main focus is, recovering my ACL. I've been working with Dr. Andrew Murugara, another Southwest grad, amazing doctor in physical therapy. He's been helping me. I've been making great progress. I'm in no rush to be back to sport, but I do want to make sure that I'm getting better every day because this knee injury is something that completely changed my life. Nonetheless, I wouldn't have expected to go professional on one leg. I just promise you, Padron, that I was playing on one leg. I didn't have that bounce in my step. There was no dunking, you know? It was just me. I needed to how can I put this? I needed to develop new weapons. I couldn't put my foot in the ground and attack. I couldn't body people, dunk, jump. So I'm like, what can I do? I can freaking shoot this ball and I can pass and I can communicate, I can be a leader, I can be coachable. A lot of guys when you play overseas, egos are huge
Mhm.
because you're playing for money. You're no longer playing for the love of the game. I play for the love of the game, and I think that's why it went well for me. But guys are playing for money. They see me come from Miami. I'm starting over people that have been on the team for a while. I'm taking their minutes. I'm taking food off their plate, basically. But to me, I was like, hey, I'm a happy-go-lucky dude. I'm a positive dude. Like I love the game. I did it for the passion, for the art. So I didn't really have an ego. If somebody was playing over me, I'm clapping him up. I'm throwing towels. Coach is screaming at me in my face. We lost this fucking game because of you. And I'm like, damn. It took me a while. I'm 30 years old. I haven't had a grown man scream in my face in quite some time. But then I, kind of backtracked and I removed myself from the situation and I realized, you know what? He's screaming at me because he needs me. Honestly, like we got 12, 13 people on this team. A lot of people are making the same mistakes and he just turns the other way. He knows he's gonna need something from me. And at the time, I don't know what it was. My first ever game professionally, I came off the bench and I played 31 minutes. And this is 4 10-minute quarters. These are 40-minute games. And
Okay.
you know how many points I had in my first game as a pro?
Not much.
Remember I told you at courtside I had 49 in my first
Yes.
game. My first game I had 0 points,
Okay.
and I played 31 minutes. Man, I was playing my ass off. I was just fucking diving and
But so
defending.
yes, I'm about to
Uh
say.
huh.
So if you're playing 31 minutes and you're not scoring, there has to be something you're doing that's keeping you on the court. So I was asking you if it was your defense or your
Dude,
ball handling that was keeping you on the court.
you know what it was? It's a little bit of everything.
Okay.
You ever heard of a stat called plus minus?
I'm sorry. What was that?
You ever heard of a stat called the plus minus?
Yes.
Dude, I was a plus minus king in Colombia. They would
Okay.
put me in. We're down 5, 8 points. By the end of my rotation, we're up 10, 15, 20. And this was a regular thing because we had some guys, some Dominicans, starters that were great players. I love them to this day, super talented. They do things that I can't even imagine doing. But their style of play is just get the ball, score.
Mm-hmm.
1-on-3, zigzag, Euro step, whatever. Get the ball, score. But then, I would come in and like, now we're running offense. Now we're communicating. Now we're playing more of a team basketball than leaving just one or two of the Dominicans, leaving a guy like me, leaving our center 6'10", 6'11". Like our bench mob was something serious. This was a regular thing that as soon as I would come in a six man, then maybe Daniel or Simon, like we started pushing that lead or we were closing the gap. And we finished the season. I think we finished like 16-3.
That's amazing.
Great. See,
That's
it's not
great.
like we were on a really good team, and we just had roles. We had Miles Bowman, one of my good friends to this day. He grew up playing with Chris Paul. He's from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This guy is just a genius. He's a power forward, 6'9", just does everything, and he's just so unselfish. Then we had Luis Santos, 6'11", plays on the Dominican national team. Great center, great charisma. He's just a star all around, great guy. And then we had our other two Dominicans, Jason Colome and Manuel Bautista, Speedy. These guys right here, they sell tickets. These guys are fast. They got confidence. They dance. They're funny. Like we just had so many different roles filled out that we had, our scorers, we had our passers, we had our heart, our hustle, our shooters, our kind of big guys that were do it all glue guys. And myself, I'm a coach myself. I train clients. So any great coach, any great teacher is also a great student. So I was just trying to learn as much as I can about the international game and having dinner with coach and just asking him like, what do you want me to do? It's not about what I want. You're the coach, your job's on the line. You got all these guys that want to play, that have talent. Like, what you want me to do? And then he pointed out to another game and he's like, Giovanni, how many points did you have last game? And I'm like, oh, 4 points. And he's like, but you played the most minutes on the team. I had a game against our rival. So we're Motilones de Cúcuta del Norte and then Bucaramanga. You probably heard of them. They're from the south. Those
Okay.
are our rivals, like FSU and UM or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just a big rivalry game. That game I played 36 minutes, man. And I only have 4 points. These are early season games as I'm developing my confidence, but I had 4 steals, 5 assists. I was diving. I had some nice blocks. Just playing good basketball. You don't need five guys that average 20. You need people that complement each other, and that was me. I'm a jack of all trades. When I grew up, I used to work on all facets of my game. I used to shoot 3 pointers with my left hand just to say that I can do it. Honestly, free throws, 3 pointers, driving, dunking, lefty, righty, pull ups, mid range, like you name it, I'm doing it. So since I got injured my knee, I needed to kind of get in my bag. I needed to resort to different. parts of my skill set and really hone in on those things. So shooting was everything to me. And when you have fast Dominican guys, you pass it to them, but you don't pass it to them. You pass it in front of them. You
Yeah.
lead them, you know. And I
Yeah,
was just
exactly.
good at just outletting that ball and just getting that offense going. And they would, some of our guys were selfish, but they would pass me the ball. And I would have teammates, some of my Colombian teammates were like, wow, I've never seen this guy pass the ball so many times to you. He must really believe in you. I'm like, shit, I believe in him. So that was, kind of me getting into the rhythm of things in my first pro season. And honestly, after my first game, I thought I would have to go back home. I couldn't even walk to my hotel. Like my knee was so swollen. It took me back to the first day when I injured myself. And I called my girlfriend at the time and I was like, I don't think this is gonna work. I really think I need to come home. And she's like, hey, give it a day, massage your knee, take the anti-inflammatories, do the therapy that you know, and then see how you wake up tomorrow. And luckily, I woke up feeling a little better, and then we had a game on the following day, so I was good enough. And this is something I wouldn't have made it without this with our season. I think we went on a 10-game winning streak,
Okay.
and during our 10 game, which is in professional sports, that's tough. And during our 10-game winning streak, we had no practices. Coach was like, if it ain't broke,
Don't fix
we
it.
don't gotta fix it.
Hmm.
And that to me was godsend because my knee, it couldn't handle practicing twice a day and then playing hard as hell. Like my swelling would come up, come down, come more up, come down. So I was just in a really tough place with my physical health, but nobody knew about it. So I just sucked it up. I just did my best. That's really all you can do in any situation.
So you basically kept a whole entire knee injury, which is basically a torn ACL from your coach, your team for an entire season for 19 games, basically with practice included in some occasions.
Close 30 games because we went to playoffs and we had two 5-game series. So yeah, I did. The team doctor knew about it. Miles Bowman, my brother from North Carolina, he knew
Hmm.
about it because he also had an ACL tear. But it's not like I was over there like giving the excuse, "Hey guys, by the way, my knees hurt." Like, no,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do my best. People know something's up with me. They see this bulky ass knee brace on me.
Hmm.
They see videos of me online dunking and all this and that, and then they see me in layup lines like just finger rolling. But honestly, fuck it, man. Honestly, I wanted to leave it all out there. My dad, both of my parents told me not to go. They're like, what if you hurt your knee even more? I had other people tell me, don't go because of work. And I go, you don't understand. And you don't have to understand. If it's a dream, I will sacrifice all of it for this dream. So I was able to, kind of keep it to myself for the most part about the knee injury. My
Yeah,
team
but you're playing
doctor knew.
professional. You're also playing professional basketball. It's not like
Hmm.
you're sacrificing everything to go play at Tropical Park. It's like
Yeah,
you're playing overseas. You're playing a professional team in Latin America. There's some status to that. And credibility as far as like why you're leaving. Your training, your physical therapy, and so on to go play overseas. I mean, it's not something. I think that's understandable personally. That happens with a lot of athletes whether they play in Europe or whether they play, let's say, in Asia. That's very common as well. Asia in
definitely.
Asia as well, or even Latin America. So I mean, it's understandable. But I mean, I just find it fascinating. You hid your injury for the most part. I'm sure they had knew something was up for 30 games. I wanted to ask you a little bit. So you are thinking about returning. You just want to be at 100%. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely. I have some breaking news for you right now. I need to put it out into the universe.
do it.
I started on my team, and the person I started over actually plays on the Colombia national team.
Okay,
And I was able to do that on one leg. So I'm thinking 2024, I want to participate in the Olympics or the World Cup for basketball for Colombia. And I know I
nice.
can. I was able to be successful on one leg and I could shoot. I have no ego. I play defense. I'm a humble player on the court, but I'm also a dog. So I know I can fit into any system. And I've seen the Colombian national team. Our top 8 guys are really, really, really good. This team is on the verge of qualifying for the World Cup for the first time in about 40 years, the
Okay,
Colombian team. And we have our first ever NBA player, Jaime Equineche. He plays for the Washington Wizards, 6'10". They call him Baby Tim Duncan.
okay,
We have Brian Angola, who's played with the Orlando Magic, D League, but he makes money. He plays in Turkey, Israel, some of the best Euro League, great scorer. Juan Tello, big 6'8", stocky guy, do it all forward. And then we just have a bunch of scrappy Colombian, quick guys that can play, that could pass. And I think I could fit right in. I could shoot, put me in the corner. let me handle the ball, whatever. I just want to be on the team and say that I can give back. So that's as soon as it starts healing, I'm building my way up to not just playing professionally in the Colombian league. I want to play on the world scale. I know I can. It's just take a little time, but I
Yeah, I'm
got nothing
sure
but time.
you have a good work ethic. I can totally tell. You're definitely motivated. I can see that. So yeah, so I think you'll make it. I think you'll make it for sure. And if you do make it, you will come on here and you will grant me the first interview.
Yes, man. Hey, absolutely. Because you
There we
heard it here
go.
first. Only a couple people close to me know about this, but this is just my next dream when it comes to basketball. I will return to the Colombian League and I want to kill. I impressed some coaches on one leg shooting threes, but they only saw less than half of my game. They haven't seen me get to the basket. They haven't really seen me facilitate, driving kick. They haven't seen me freaking dunk on somebody or just
Yeah.
flush the ball. Not that that's so important, but it is a nice feat to be able to say you can do it. So my game right now is loading as my body heals. I'm still working on my game, stationary and shooting, trying to add new moves, trying to not be so dependent on athleticism and trying to learn fluidity and better footwork.
Yeah, before we go into the Miami Heat, since you brought that up, what keeps a lot of guys in the NBA for a very long time is when, especially guys, that play like the guard position or the forward position, is if they have a jump shot. So
Oh yeah.
if you're somebody that's a slasher, that's all you do is just go drive inside and so on. Your body can only take so much, especially in such a long season. So that's why guys like Ray Allen, even LeBron's been playing for 20 plus years because he developed his jumper.
Hmm.
D Wade, developed a three more or less, towards the end of his career. So I think, the fact that, you're multifaceted and you're definitely working on your jump shot in particular while you're injured, you're able to, facilitate as well, also pass the ball, obviously, and facilitate that usually stems for a very long career, as far as professional sports goes. So I do think you will make it. I want to ask you though, I know you're a Miami guy. You following the Heat?
I do. I do. Especially leading up to this interview, I made sure to do my homework and see some of our highlights and tune in some older games.
Yeah. Last night, it's available now with Alejandro Solana. We broke down the Heat a little bit.
Hmm.
But we're both, like I said, we're both broadcasters. He's the producer for the pregame and postgame show. You know, so we gave basically from a fan's perspective, but you as a player, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is one of the things that people talk about the Heat. One of the main reasons why they're 4-6 and not, kind of like what they were last year is because there's been some minor changes to the team. For example, Tyler Hero no longer coming off the bench. He's now starting. That's 25 points a game. That's no longer coming off the bench. The loss of PJ Tucker, going over to Philadelphia. I think that's an underrated loss because the guy got you a lot of dirty buckets and he did a lot of dirty work down low. So those are things that I think affect the team a little bit. Rotation again, getting that put together and getting that squared away is very important. So as a player, how do you feel about that analysis? Do you agree? What else do you think the Heat might be missing? That they'll probably end up correcting regardless as the season goes along.
Let me start with their record.
Okay.
I think that they are much better than a 4-16. It's just in the beginning of any season, it's just hard to get stops. It's not so much that the offense doesn't click. It's actually the defense doesn't click. There's teams like Sacramento and these teams that finished last in their conference, 130 points on us. So our defense is struggling a little bit, which is very common early on in the season. I also think that the Heat are like the best sleeper team out there because they're not really in the headlines. They're not the top contenders in the East or West. You don't really hear about them. But last year we were the number one seed.
Mm-hmm.
A year before that, I think we got our butt kicked by the Bucks. But a year
Yeah, they were
before that, we
they
were
were
in the
like the four
finals.
seed. Yeah.
Yeah, a year before that, we were in the finals. So we have the talent. We got the cohesiveness. We got the dogs. I think too, it's gonna be an adjustment period to have Tyler Hero in the starting lineup. And I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of having him as a starter. I like, the Jimmy Butler, the point guard, a big guy, and I just like having that Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, like that weapon that just, runs around trying to get 3 pointers because that creates so much space. And even though Tyler Hero can do similar things, he's more of a like, give me the ball and let me make something happen type of player. That's
Mm-hmm.
why at this moment I like him on the bench because when he comes in, it's just, he's running the show. So he has all that. He elevates the players. So I think there's a little bit of an adjustment period. And then based on the eye test, at least from the first 5 or 6 games of the season, we are so small. When Bam Adebayo comes out the game,
Yeah.
we don't have any depth in our front court, not one bit. PJ Tucker was great, as you mentioned, even though he's undersized. Like he just gives the team a little bit of toughness and swagger, boxes out, makes plays, gets charges. Like he plays a lot bigger than 6'5". So I just think we are very small right now. I saw Dedmon just got back in the rotation maybe a
Hmm.
game or two ago. Omar Yurtseven hasn't been playing. He's super talented. So once we get Yurtseven, in the rotation, either him or Dedmon. I like Yurtseven. I don't know how you feel about our backup bigs, but I love Yurtseven's game. He's young. He could do it all. He's long. He's physical. He can shoot. He makes free throws. Dedmon is just more of a veteran, so they kind of trust him at this point in his career. But I feel like once we get our front court, we only have Bam. When Bam comes out of the game,
Yeah, the defense
we
drops
drop to six
immensely.
six.
Yeah, exactly. The defense drops immensely with Bam's out. Demon's okay. Like I like Dwayne Demon. I do like Omar Yurtseven. I always butcher his name, forgive me, but I always I like him. He came in as a rookie. He was when Bam was out, he was averaging he was a 15-10 guy, last year when
Yeah.
so when he gets injected into the lineup, I do think that he, will be a much better team, especially rebounding, which I think is important because you're right, they are small. Once Bam gets out the game and Dedmon, he's okay, but he's not to the caliber of Bam, and he's not as athletic as Virtsin, is as well. So yeah, I totally agree with you. You're not gonna get an argument out of
And
me.
one more thing.
Mhm.
Well, excuse me, probably a little more than one more thing. And I'm
Okay.
sure you've heard this with everybody you have a conversation with. We need this person. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. His name is Bam Adebayo. We need that man to be, offensively
Yeah.
dangerous. He
Yeah.
is just very passive. He doesn't really have a go-to move.
Yeah.
We don't really look for him to score. We will give him the ball, the center of the court, because he's such a great passer and screener. So he gets a lot of misdirection and momentum, but he's not that guy that's backing you down jump hook. He's
Yeah.
not that guy that's turning face, at least not consistently. He'll have a 27 and 12 game,
Yeah.
and then he will have 10 and 10.
He had a pretty solid game the
So
last couple of games. I didn't see tonight's game against the Pacers, so I don't know the box score on that one, but he had a pretty solid game against Golden State. Which
yeah,
I don't understand why, the Heat don't, because the Heat are actually bigger than Golden State, and Golden State does struggle against bigger teams. Hassan Whiteside, who, once he got paid, he totally dropped his performances, but even he had he would average like 25 and 10 every so often against Golden State. So Bam had a very solid game against Golden State. He had a pretty solid game as well against Sacramento. So he has his moments, but I do agree with you. I think that if we weren't able to get a guy like Donovan Mitchell or Kevin Durant in the offseason, because we didn't want to give up, so many pieces, because that's really what they wanted. Basically we have to sell the whole team, just to get, one guy. Jimmy needs help, and I think
hmm
a guy like Bam, with his talent, his athleticism, he needs to do more, than be, lay it up, or the occasional jump shot. He's got to work on more of his game where he's more of a threat offensively than, oh crap, we got to box him out, because the alley oop is coming. That's what I think, in regards to Bam.
absolutely, I agree with you. I mean, because Jimmy Butler, the star of the team, he's not really a score first type of player.
No, he's not.
Jimmy Butler is just wants to. He says it in his interviews. He just wants to put a shoulder in you. He wants to play
Yeah.
physical. He wants to facilitate, and so is Bam. Bam is a facilitator as well. So your two best players, your two highest paid players, are pass first guys, and it
Yeah.
sounds great. That's why we have such a good team. But when it gets into the thick of the playoffs, when teams have played you not just 7 times, these teams in the East, you play them 4 times in the season.
Hmm.
So you might play Boston 11 times last season, going to game 7. They already know what you're going to do. You just need someone that's just going to get a bucket. So last season, to kind of rewind, I think what screwed us over is that everybody statistically played below their average. We didn't really need any other players or anyone else to step up. We just needed guys, especially guys named Tyler Hero,
Hmm.
to play close to their average. So he's someone that averaged 20, 24 points a game last season, six man of the year. And in the playoffs, he was probably averaging single digits and getting DMPs. So
Yeah.
that is not, we didn't need that because he's the one guy on the team that is like a score first player. He's a scorer and he could facilitate. I like how Eric Spoelstra his rookie year. I had a lot of friends that were like, "Why is Tyler Hero running the point guard so much? I don't like it. I don't like it." I'm like, Spoelstra's thinking about 3, 4, 5 years down the road. He might not be the best point guard today, but he wants to have that in his skill set.
Yeah. I
So,
also think in regards to the Heat, I mean, guys like Gabe Vincent and Max Strus aren't used to 82 game seasons and then having to play in
mhm,
the playoffs. So I think even though Max had a pretty good game 7 against Boston and he got screwed, on one of the 3-point shots, but I think, those guys like Gabe Vincent that were lighting up, they lit up Atlanta and then they lit up, Philadelphia. Their numbers dropped, against Boston, and
mhm,
I think their legs just gave out on them. So I think like for example, this season, once the playoffs come along, you will see Max Strus, in particular, Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, their numbers will climb up, in the playoffs because now they're used to a full 82 game season and they're also playoff tested as well. So I think that's something that happened in Miami. Jimmy Butler though is a facilitator, but I will say this: I was extremely impressed with him last year in the playoffs. He literally put the team on his back and did anything possible, especially scoring wise,
mhm.
anything possible to win the game. That's why I had no issues with him shooting that three to end the game. I mean, the guy played the whole 48 minutes. He's probably like, I'm not
Mhm.
going to overtime. Let me just send these people
Same,
home.
same.
And he barely missed a shot.
I have no problem at all. I was just having this conversation yesterday with a good friend of mine, and we were both on the same page. Like, I have no problem at all with our guy that's been scoring, because
Hmm.
Jimmy Butler will score when the team needs it.
Yeah.
He's not the Kobe style that's just gonna give you 30 all season. He might have 12, but in the playoffs, he's getting his 30s and his 40s. I had no problem with the shot at all. That was our best player. He was hot. He was in a good rhythm all over the court. He had a
Yeah.
one-on-one situation, and I felt exactly what you said. This man is exhausted. Nobody wants to go to overtime right now. He has a clean look at the basket, take it, and I lived with it. It was Game 7. It came down to one shot. We ended up losing by two, unless we fouled after for some free throws, and it was a great performance. And you mentioned Strus and Vincent. These guys are really, really talented players. I think they were undrafted, if I'm not mistaken, or
No, they
late,
weren't
late,
drafted.
late pick. And Duncan Robinson. Like, we're playing over here with,
Yeah.
I don't want to say scraps, but players that other teams completely overlooked that could have been on any team, and they were contributing big time to a contending roster. And we're also playing against Boston, who had the number one defense in the NBA,
Yeah.
and they had so much length on the perimeter. So it's just a very tough matchup for those type of guys specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I had a buddy text me. He's like, "How can you want a guy that shot 27% in the season and threes to take that last shot?" I go, because he was shooting almost 40% in the
Hmm.
playoffs and he hit the same shot and before halftime. So that's why I agreed that he should take that shot
Absolutely.
as well. And going back again, to those two guys, Struce, Duncan Robinson, and Gabe Vincent. That's why I think that Coach Spo, not because I'm a Miami guys, you can tell more in the hat.
Hmm.
But that's what I think Coach Spo is the best coach in the NBA. The guys coach, elite players. He's coached guys that, they're scrappy, and he's gotten the best out of all his guys, So I think that's why to me he's, the best coach in the NBA. In some cases, even underrated by some writers and pundits on ESPN that aren't athletes like yourself. That they evaluate more than just what they see in the eye test. They look at matchups, fundamentals, and the long term game.
Hmm. I love Coach Paul. Underrated as a coach. We've been saying that for a couple of years. Ever
Yeah.
since the bubble finals, I think he's gotten a lot more respect. And you can tell a great coach in basketball by a couple of things, at least for me. Rotations,
Hmm.
like when we send in two new guys, are we going up or down in our plus minus? Also, something very subtle too is after a timeout, like, are we getting clean looks at the
Yeah.
basket? You'll see great teams. They might not have the best players, but after timeout, they get a bucket,
Of
and
course.
that's coaching. And then also that coming out of the third quarter or coming into the third quarter, like that halftime adjustment, the energy, the speech, the X's and O's on the board. It's kind of figuring out your opponent in the game and then adjusting on the spot. And those are things that Coach Bolstra is excellent. And the defense, that goes without saying. That
Hmm.
bubble team is one of the best defensive teams I've ever seen with Jay Crowder and Jimmy Butler. Like, we just played so hard. I've never seen a team rotate so hard. Like, if one guy gets beat, he helps. Someone helps to help. Someone helps to help. It's just
Yeah.
everyone just so cohesive. I thought that was very impressive.
Yeah, it's that Riley mentality which Spo has. The good thing about Spo is that he's adaptable. The game was changing, became more guard oriented. Opens floors, spacing and stuff like that. He's very adaptable, but defensive first, defensive minded coach first, physical, tough.
Hmm.
Take charges. And make sure that every time the opponent has a basketball, it's a tough shot. It's never an easy look. That's the Riley. mentality that Spo is bringing to the modern day. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think he's the best coach in the NBA. I mean, hands down. I mean, him, maybe Monty, over at Phoenix, who's done a good job with that team as well. With the Suns, I like Monty a lot. But I mean, I think Coach Spo with what he's had to work with, the egos he's had to manage, having LeBron and Wade and Bosh, with one basketball and setting him 4 times the finals, winning 2 championships, should have been 3, winning 2 championships out of the 4, then having to restructure and build a team eventually around Hassan Whiteside. And I mean, the guys made things work is what I'm trying to say. And I think he doesn't get enough credit, for it. He does from his peers. His peers love him, but not a lot of times from the writers. Gyvanni, thank you so much for joining us. I had a wonderful time, and you have one hell of a journey, and I'm glad you were able to share it with us.
Thank you for having me, Padron, man. It was a pleasure. And remember that I will be back.
Yes,
Have unfinished business.
and I'm gonna hold you to it, man, because I want that announcement when you're going back to Colombia and or playing for the national team. Okay.
And I want that green screen behind you, that crispy, all of that.
You'll get it, my friend. You'll definitely get it. All right, everybody. For Gyvanni Gonzalez, I am Will. If you like what you heard, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to 305 Sports Now. All right. For everybody, have a wonderful day. Stay safe. God bless. See you soon.